Facebook and YouTube and all the streaming services that you can imagine with Joe Apfelbaum. Another episode of Run With It coming up. You're behind the scenes here, and we are going to get right into it. You guys ready?
All set.
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. Welcome to Run With It, where we bring you business ideas from proven founders. Each episode, you'll hear a new business idea and the exact steps our guest would take to get started. We're your hosts, Chris Justin.
And Ethan Janney. And on today's show, we have Joe Apfelbaum. He's co-founder and CEO of Ajax Union, a digital marketing agency that was featured in the Inc. 5000 with a three-year growth rate of thousands of % per year. Joe is a Brooklyn native. He's currently excited about Evergreen, a service that helps you generate leads and referrals on LinkedIn, network online and in person, close deals, and achieve your goals. Most importantly for him, he's a family man who enjoys raising his 5 beautiful children.
It's very impressive, Ethan, but you know that our show is about new business ideas. Joe, you've got one to launch a business on Amazon, Mom's Health. Welcome to the show, and tell us about the idea you would like our listeners to run with.
Thank you so much. I had my sister, she came over to me and she said, I really want to earn money on Amazon. And I was like, okay, like, why do you want to earn money on Amazon? She's like, because it's easy. Amazon is one of the largest companies in the world, and so many people are finding great products and selling them on Amazon, and they're super, super, super successful. And I said, okay, that's wonderful. What type of product do you want to sell? She's like, I don't know. I'll sell anything. I just want to make money. I don't care what I sell. I just want to sell something and I want to make money. And I said, why do you want to make money? And we got into the whole thing. And I said, how much money do you want to make? She's like, what's the difference? I just want to sell something. I said, so sell toothpaste. She's like, what? Why would I sell toothpaste? That's so stupid. Like, who even buys toothpaste? I was like, just look into it. She's like, where do I even buy toothpaste? I was like, that's just an example of something that you probably don't want to sell. So she's like, how do I even come up with what I want to do, what I want to sell? I said, the first thing you need to do is you need to figure out your goal. How much money do you want to make? Because if you want to make 50 cents, just go sell water at the corner to the cars that stop at the red light and you'll make much more than 50 cents and you'll do really well. She's like, okay, that's dumb. I'm not going to stand at the corner and sell water, but I really want to sell something on Amazon because I think I could do really well. So I said, what is your goal? How much money? What does really well mean? Because if you want to make $100 million, I promise you, you're not going to be doing it on Amazon anytime soon unless you hire a staff and infrastructure and this, that, the other thing. She's like, I'm not thinking about $100 million. I want to be able to buy a house and pay a good mortgage. I said, how much is a mortgage? We got into the whole thing. Basically, she wants to make $180,000 a year. I said, okay, great. You can definitely do that by selling stuff on Amazon. And now, before we get into what you're going to sell on Amazon, let's talk about your target market. She's like, what does that even mean, target market? I'm not doing target practice. I was like, no, you don't understand. What I mean is who you're going to serve. I said, people that want to buy things. Yeah, who are those people? She's like, what's the difference? Anybody that wants to buy anything. I was like, that's where a lot of people go wrong. Because if you want to build a successful business that has reoccurring revenue, what you want to do is you want to find products for a community of people that you're passionate about serving. And she's like, well, I would really want to, I'm always there thinking about solving problems for moms just like me, because she's Jewish, she's a mom, she has 5 kids just like me, and she has lots of different issues that she has to face. And she's like, I'm like, wow, that's very interesting. I was like, you really excited? She's like, yeah, I love gadgets and I love furniture and I love mom's health and I love all types of stuff like that. And I was like, fabulous. So let's come up with some product ideas that you can sell on Amazon. And then we'll find out who sells those stuff. And then maybe you'll also open up a Shopify site. Maybe you'll start a consulting service as well. There's lots of different ideas. She's like, her brain starts whizzing. She starts taking notes. And 30 minutes later, we have a few ideas of things that we can test out, because ultimately marketing is about testing. So I said, how many moms do you have in your life right now? She's like, I have unlimited moms. I was like, that's not true. You don't have unlimited moms. There's something called the Pareto principle, that you get, a certain percentage of results from a certain percentage of the people in your life. So even if you had, let's say 1,000 moms, only 200 of them are really going to be investing in what you're offering, like the 20-80 rule. And I said, in addition to that, there's the Dunbar law. And she's like, what's the Dunbar law? The Dunbar law is that you can only really know 150 relationships at any given time in your life. And she's like, oh my God, I thought I had like unlimited, but really you're right. If I sit down and write, I maybe have 20, 30 people that I know off the top of my head. And I said, if you look through your phone book and you look through the kids in your kids' classes and the people that you see in the synagogue and like all that stuff, you'll probably come up with 150 people. that you'd like to put into your list of prospects? And she's like, okay, now that I have the prospects, so I'm going to tell them to go on Amazon and buy something. I said, no, you're going to interview them to figure out what problems they currently face. And then she was like shocked. She's like, people will tell me what problems they face every single day. And I said, this is how I build my multi-million-dollar agency. This is how I was featured on the Inc. 5000 as one of the fastest growing companies in America. I was building websites for people as a freelancer. I don't know if you knew this. I had a web design company. And I was building about 100 websites a year. And I started just having conversations with my clients and potential clients. And what they told me is, Joe, you told me that if you build it, they will come. And it's not true. I was like, what do you mean? I built it. Didn't they come? It's like, no, nobody came. You built me a website. Nobody's coming. I was like, oh, yeah. You have to market the website too. You can't just build it and hope that they'll come, right? A lot of people do that. They start a website and they're all excited about it. And then they're waiting and waiting and waiting. And what do they hear? They just basically hear crickets. And I would play the crickets here, but I don't want to bother Ethan too much.
I'm just going to cut in here real quick. So if you're just joining us, we're here with Joe Apfelbaum. As you just mentioned, founder of Ajax Union, a rapidly growing startup featured in the Inc. 5000. We usually don't let our guests talk for as long as you have just up front.
Yeah, you must be super charming to get away with that for so long.
No, but what you've been doing, just to recap, if you're just joining us, is how to start an Amazon business. But what you've dealt with in detail is your sister's specific situation, being a mother. She didn't realize that that was an asset that she had that she could use to think about what kind of products she could sell. And then you've taken us into the territory of she's got to get specific. You've mentioned several times in here, specificity seems very important to you. You know, she was just general. She wants to make money. How do you want to make money? Well, how much money do you want to make? Now you've got clients. Who are the clients? How are they? How are they specific? You know, you used to be a web designer. You made websites. People did not come to them. And what you've learned is you need to be specific with your customers. You need to talk to them. You get to know them. So that's kind of where we're at. And I think we're doing great. And we're talking about the steps to build a business, which is really what we care about on this show. So, you know, we can definitely just like let you continue, but just to, you know, you put in a joke about the sound effects and things, but we're basically at the point where you're saying you need to talk to customers. And if you want to talk about specifically this business, what do you tell your sister to do? How does she reach out to people? How does she start those conversations? And what does she pay attention to that really matters?
Well, I want to take us into an aside here because, Joe, you have flipped our typical model.
Chris, you can't do that. I just asked him a question.
I know. I didn't like your question. I think your question is going to be fitting later. I think that those action steps are going to be important, but I think that it's worth pointing out that typically we talk about a problem and an opportunity, and it's all from the perspective of the customer. And what you have highlighted and may have deftly swept by the listener is that you don't start with the customer. You start with you. You start with what you want. And I think that's been apparent based on the type of business that you have built for yourself. You're managing 5 kids. You take them to school every day. I think I've heard
every day.
You slept 9 hours one night, which is, you know, to have multiple businesses and that level of success that you do while still maintaining your personal life.
You got Chris beat. He still has his sleep problems he's working on.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that. I wrote a book called High Energy Secrets. So if you want to learn how to sleep better, we can have a chat about it.
Yeah, hook me up, man.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think it's worth pulling that apart. I mean, this episode could have turned into a 5-minute one if you just laid it. You're just going to lay it all out there for us. We gotta give the listener a little bit more to.
I'd love to talk about that a little bit. I think I want to talk about both things. I think both what you're talking about and what Ethan's talking. The questions you both asked are really, and I think they're kind of related also. If you take a step back from making money, because nobody. I just talked to my coach today. I have a sales coach that I talk to every 2 weeks, and he said, nobody works for pieces of paper with pictures of dead presidents on them. Nobody works for green pieces of paper with pictures of dead presidents on them. And that like got me shocked. Like I was like, wow, that's so good. I have to repeat that because people don't work for money. They work for what money can do for them. And although we all know this intrinsically, and it sounds like a sales pitch, the reality is we really have to ask ourselves, what type of life do we want to live? And you're asking questions to your customers about what problems you want to solve. You have to ask your questions to yourself. You have to ask yourself, what do you really want out of life? Because often we think we want one thing and we're living literally just to make our parents proud, or to make our neighbors happy, or to make people feel comfortable with who we are. But the reality is that's never going to make you happy, trying to define your success by somebody else's standard. So figuring out what you really want for yourself and what's really going to motivate you to take that action when you're not getting results. When I started my business, I spent a whole year not getting results. A lot of people think, oh, he just went off and he was successful, until I was specific, like you mentioned, where I had one problem with one partner and offered one product to solve that problem. I was able to go deep and service over 1,100 clients. But before that, I was everything to everybody. As soon as I heard, oh, you have to market your business, I said, I can do business cards. I can get you in the PR. I can do like all types of random things I was doing for people, projects. And they were projects, some of them paid $25,000, but it wasn't scalable. It wasn't repeatable. It didn't have systems and processes associated with it. It wasn't solving one problem for one audience. It was kind of just like a smorgasbord of marketing features, because I was afraid. The truth is I was afraid. I had a tremendous fear. And this fear I see in a lot of people, the fear of just not having abundance, the fear of someone asking me for something and then me pigeonholing myself into a niche, or to one feature or one product or one service, and then somebody comes and asks me to do something else, or they won't ask me to do that because they think I only do something else because I niched out. So at the end of the day, the most important thing that you need to do is figure out, what do you want to do in this world with your life? You've been given a gift. Everyone has been given a gift to be alive. And all the talents that you have are basically the gifts that you've been given in order for you to serve the world. And not just serve yourself, but make a difference, leave the world with an indelible mark. You never know the day that you're going to die. So what are you going to do? Just try to make money? There's a lot of ways to make money. But if you can also make an impact, who do you want to make an impact for? What do you want your lifestyle to be like? It's one of the questions that we ask our students at Evergreen. Before you begin LinkedIn, ask yourself, what do you want your lifestyle to be like? For me, I don't want to work in my business. When I started at Ajax Uni, that was one clear indication. I want to work on my business. Again, I'll say this again. I used to work in my business, doing all the work, closing the deals and doing the work. I had that epiphany that I need recurring revenue and I need to work on my business and hire people. So when I sell, I go and sell for other people to do the work, because I don't enjoy doing the work. I enjoy spending time with my kids. I enjoy having conversations. I enjoy hiring people, managing them. I enjoy all the creative stuff. I don't really enjoy doing the work. And you have to do what you enjoy. You have to do what some people say, oh, you got to find what you love and do that. No, don't find what you love and do that. Love what you do. Love what you do. So you have to fall in love with the doing. And that's how you're going to be able to, even if you're not getting results, you're going to be able to keep doing the do. In the beginning, it was very difficult to close deals when you had no reputation. You have no reputation. How are you going to close deals? So I told this to my sister. She asked me the question, how do you even get started? Who do you even ask questions to? I said, friends and family. She's like, oh, but you don't do business with friends and family. And I said, did I tell you to do business, or did I tell you to investigate? Because they'll be honest with you. Friends and family will be honest with you. So the easiest people to interview is my wife, my sister, my cousin, my aunt. Interview them. They're your target market. Interview them. Interview your neighbor, your friends, the people in your school. Interview them. And she's like, what should I even ask them?
I'm just going to step in here. I'm just going to step in here and bring in a comment from we had a previous guest on the show who wrote a book called The Mom Test. And actually the idea of the book was, you can't talk to your mom about your business idea, because she's going to be like, oh, honey, of course I'll buy it. I'll buy 10, sign me up for a box, So I'm curious just to dive a little bit deeper into that, what you're saying. I see that there's some value in what you're saying, that your friends and family can be of assistance, and you said that they'll be honest with you. I would agree that your friends and family will be honest with you in action. So like, they'll tell you something's great, but if you invite them to your event and they don't show up, you'll be like, oh, okay, my friends and family, politely just didn't show up, and they're showing me that this is not a good idea. But what are the nuances there? Because there's an important part. If your friends and family oftentimes will lie to you,
They will lie to you if you tell them, is this a good idea? If you,
Right, okay.
but they will not lie to you if you ask them what their day-to-day problems are. I'll say this again. They will lie
Got
to
it.
you if you say, hey, do you like my book? Oh, your book is great, Joe. I love your new book, High Energy Purpose, How to Live 100% of your. They'll read it. Maybe they won't read it. Maybe they'll read the first few lines, but next level. Oh my God, Joe, I love it. I love it. I love it. This is going to be a bestseller for sure. Don't ask them that question because they're going to lie to you 100%. And if they don't lie to me, I'm going to be offended. So please lie to me and tell me how amazing I am. Okay. I love that. I love that. But when I ask you what your problems are, a random person are going to lie to you and say, oh, everything's fine. I don't have any problems. But your friends and family, they're going to literally spill their guts out. My daughter, my sister actually told me, she's like, all right, she started asking her friends and family, and they started coming to her with real problems that strangers wouldn't be able to trust her with, things that are intimate problems that they were having in their life, like really private things, private issues. Some of them psychological issues, some of them, issues with having a child who's, autistic, or having issues with breastfeeding, and, things that are really private. A stranger is not going to tell you, hey, I'm having an issue and I need a lactation consultant. And I wish I had this extra thing that I can put on my whatever so that I can have an easier time. And she found problems around the whole world of breastfeeding, around the whole world of keeping kids that are autistic busy. And she started coming up with issues that her friends, her neighbors, her cousins, her aunts, people that she started interviewing, she started coming up with issues and ideas that were products and services that can be sold both on Amazon, on eBay, on a Shopify, through a Facebook Live. And she started coming up with all these ideas. And she's so much closer to doing $180,000 a year in terms of a conceptual idea. Whereas before, she's like, I just need a product to sell on Amazon. And she came up with total vagueness. Now she actually has something viable that she can go out and say, and I asked her, I said, how many customers do you need to get to your goal? And she's like, depends on how much I'm going to be charging. I said, I love that. I love that. So how much can each person afford to pay you? To be able to do that. She's like, let's say $80 a month. I said, what's $80 a month? She's like $1,000 a year, according to my calculator. I was like, perfect. So in order to make $180,000 a year, how many customers do you need to service every year? And she's like, that's easy. 100, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 50. I was like, let's do the calculation. $1,000. You have 180 customers. How much do you earn? She's like, oh my God, I only need 100 customers. Is that possible? That if I have 100 customers paying me $1,000 a year each, I make 180. She's like, that's so easy. I was like, yeah, it's a lot easier to serve 180 customers or whatever the number is than it is to serve millions that you wanted to serve before. And now it becomes a reality for her. She's like, oh, wow, I really have to do the math. One of the things that Grant Cardone, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's a big sales trainer. He tells all salespeople to do. He's like, do the math. Do the math. Because if you do the math, you'll know exactly what your activity needs to look like. If you do the math, you'll know exactly how many leads you need. If you do the math, you'll determine if what you want to earn in your life, in your business, in your current position is realistic, or do you need to make certain shifts in order for you to get what you want. Most people are not doing the math because they're not living in reality. They're living in dreamland. They're not being specific. They're like, I want to feel good. I want to be happy. I want to make as much as possible. But as much as possible is hope. And hope is a great thing. It's just not a great strategy.
One thing I want to surface here is it's clear that you value personal development. I know you've had a lot of experience. You talked about Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within, Landmark Forum in the past, and you are viewing business with all of that sum total experience. But oftentimes you can't just tell that to someone. It seems like you have to give them the task and see what problems they run into, and then use that as an opportunity to inject the personal development that can help them overcome those problems.
Yeah, it's kind of like discovery. When you discover I was talking to my sales coach this morning. One of the things that he spoke about is like when you're coaching your sales rep, listen to a call with them and then ask them, what did you do great? And let them come up with what they did great. And then ask them, what did you do that wasn't so great? And let them come up with the problems. And often they'll come up with the problem instead of you telling them the problem. They discover the problem. Then you can coach them and then role play with them into making sure that you adjust that problem. So Allowing the person to discover their own issues is the key for them to have the epiphany. Because when you're told what you did wrong, that's criticism. And your ego is not going to hear the criticism as a self-defense mechanism. You just don't hear the criticism. But when you discover it on your own, it's not your ego, it's your awareness. It's the opposite of your ego. You suddenly have consciousness. You suddenly have awareness. You suddenly have the power to not change, because the more you change, the more things stay the same, but you have the power to transform. Awareness transforms us. Just like light transforms darkness, it doesn't change the darkness. The darkness will come back once you remove the light. It transforms all the darkness. Even a little bit of light will transform all the darkness into light. You're suddenly able to see things. The same thing with the process of discovery. That's why the Socratic method works so much better than the dogmatic method. If I overpower you and tell you what to do, you might do it, but you're not going to learn. But if I influence you through questions, through investigation, you're going to then start thinking differently, come up with the idea yourself. And as a result of that, you're much more likely to comply and to live a better life. This works with all my kids as well. So this is
useful. Yeah, this sounds useful from your perspective as someone coaching your sister, right, into this process. Don't say, okay, let's have you work with moms, right? No, you say, what do you know? What are you good at? And she comes up with the things. From the perspective of the listener, as they're starting a business, how can they use this? Is it, because they're not trying to show somebody else how to start a business. They're trying to actually start the business. Is there a way that they can implement this into their process of building the business, whether it's, selling or interacting with other people? What are the ways that this plays a role in someone starting a business?
Oftentimes, entrepreneurs think that they're very, very smart, and often they are smart. But when you think you're so smart, you end up not hearing the things that you're listening to over and over, but you're not doing. There are simple personal development things that I hear Jim Rohn say, and I think to myself, oh, that's dumb. Why do I need to hear that? I know that already. Have you ever heard somebody, a coach, a consultant, somebody that's a motivator tell you something and you're like, stupid, I know that already. Give me a new idea. You don't need new ideas. You need to discover what within those ideas you're not doing right now, or that you haven't really listened to because you're so busy watching everything through the filter of you being so clever. Stop being so clever. Be a little more intelligent and look at the big picture and listen with a new ear, with a fresh perspective to the things that you've been hearing over and over and over. You see, we all have blind spots. Every one of us have blind spots. And the more we're focused on trying to get a result and not being and not listening, the more we are missing the bigger picture and missing all the opportunity of what's right in front of us. We're often looking for more resources. People say, Joe, if only I had more money, I'd be able to build a business. You don't need more resources. You need to learn to be more resourceful with what you already have. So get your brain to be a little more curious. Discover a little more. Instead of just writing things off of, I know that already, listen or read the books that you've been already reading, things like Traction, things like the Scaling Up, books that will allow you to kind of think of business in a different way. And that will help you be able to ask yourself the right questions. See, it's oftentimes that entrepreneurs are looking for answers, and that's not really what you need to be doing when you're looking for a business idea or looking to launch a business. You need to be asking better questions. You need to be
focus in here and let me focus in here and just kind of isolate what I'm taking out of this. You tell me if this is a good interpretation or not. So we're taking this concept of asking questions as a leadership role. You used it in sales, you used it with your sister trying to help her start a business, but we can transfer that to being inquisitive, number one, about your customers, right? So you're talking about your sister. She's talking to the potential clients you would have, not asking them, is this a good idea? But saying, what's going on with you? What are your problems? Like, how does that really work? And having a lot of questions and not pretending like she knows what they need or has the answers. And then on top of that, you're saying there's a kind of way of asking yourself questions and going into the details of what you think you already know and asking yourself, like, where there are more details here that I have unclear. Is that a good recap?
Yeah, and also when you're getting information from people, and you're often going to get advice from mentors, coaches, consultants, strategists, gurus, don't like write people off if you already know what they said. Don't just write that idea off, because if you're hearing an idea, you're meant to hear that idea again. Sometimes I hear the same speaker give the same speech 5 times, and every single time I hear it, because I come with an open ear and an open mind, I hear something that I didn't hear before. Often I'll read my own book multiple times, and every single time, because I'm reading it with a curious eye. I'm not saying, oh, I know this already, and just being bored and not listening, but try to discover, try to see what you experience, because discovery comes from experience, from awareness, not from doing or trying to fix something or having an agenda. When you remove the agenda, the universe sends you the signs of what you're going to experience, which is very different than trying to fix something or trying to do something. Often our agenda limits us from being to experience all the opportunity that the universe has for us. And I know this sounds like all like hoo-hoo and woo-woo. What are you talking about, Joe? We're trying to make money. But ultimately, you're not just trying to make money. You're trying to attract success. You're trying to find your purpose. And there's your internal purpose and your external purpose. So discovering that is something that you need to discover through awareness. Those epiphanies that you have didn't come because you worked hard at understanding the info. The harder you knock on the rock, you're not going to get the rock to crack. You got to just knock the rock 1,000 times, and maybe like 891 or 1,000 and 1,201, the rock will crack and you'll get the epiphany. The epiphany comes when you don't force it, but when you just caress it and massage it in. And that's when you get the idea, and that's when the idea takes off, and that's when you see success. I've interviewed so many entrepreneurs, spoke to so many people, and it was when they were flowing that they got the most success, not when they were trying to force things to change. It was when they transformed their own way of thinking. There's a famous saying, it's 80% mindset and 20% skill set, but we're all trying to learn new skills all the time. And we forget that our mindset is keeping us fixed where we are. The same level of thinking that created the problem is not going to be able to fix the problem, is not going to be able to transform the problem. So if you want to get to the next...
here, I want to highlight again. You got a lot to say, and I want to make sure that there's like a summary here, so we could pay attention. Something very interesting that you noted about reading, say, your own book multiple times, or going back to something that you're hearing multiple times. I know I had a conversation with a guy that's basically in charge of sales for Eben Pagan, who's been very successful with sales online. And he worked with Chet Holmes, who wrote a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. And Chet Holmes worked with, Warren Buffett's partner, Charlie Munger, did amazing things with sales. And I asked him about him reading that book. And he said he had read that book multiple times. And he had underlined and went through it so many times that he could recite the names of sections, the name of chapters, and so on and so forth. And I think that's a really good exercise for any listener who wants to get anywhere with anything. Take something that you feel like you just keep hearing over and over again. And you're like, I keep hearing it. It's BS, or I don't really get it, or it doesn't make sense. Go in and read that book about it another time and underline and get deeper into it and see what else you find. I think that's a really interesting way to approach things.
I want to ask, related to that, how valuable do you think an exercise like that can be without a goal of, let's say, becoming an entrepreneur or improving your relationship, even without some goal? It seems to me like it's harder to internalize the messages from the books that you're reading.
Well, it depends on, ultimately, at the end of the day, there's something about going deep with a concept. There's something about going deep with an idea. So I'll give you an example. There's a guy, David Allen. He wrote a famous book called Getting Things Done. And if you haven't read his book, I highly recommend it. It's mandatory reading for all my employees, because our competitive
preaching to the choir. All I hear about is Getting Things Done with Chris.
Yeah, I talk about it all the time with you. And I know you're a fan too. So.
Okay, great. But my point is, I've read the book in the past and I just got nothing out of it. And I was like, yeah, I know this stuff. Of course, in box zero, we all know it, blah, blah, blah. But then my coach asked me if I really read it. My coach asked me several years ago, he's like, Joe, did you really read the book? Like, did you really read all the chapters? Did you read the stories? Is your mind really like water? Like, do you use your... And I was like, you know what? The truth is I didn't go deep. And then he's like, you know what? I want you to do an exercise. I want you to ask 5 of your closest entrepreneurs a couple of questions around what they like about you, what they like most about you, and what are some things that they might not be able to trust you with, things like that. And so I asked these questions to 25 people. And one of them said, Joe, I hear you starting a lot of books, but how many of them have you actually finished? And that my mind was blown from that question, because I wrote down that question, underlined it and circled it, and I asked myself that. And I went back to the bookcase and I said, you know what, let me take Getting Things Done and really take a deep dive. And it was so hard to really read every part of it because it's just a difficult book to read. And we were on vacation in Aspen, and I just forced myself to read the whole thing. And then I read it again, and then I read it, underlined it, and then started highlighting. And I started getting really excited because started seeing things that I just never saw before. And I was like, this is insane. And before I did that exercise of getting things done, I never really had the time to read a book for a few times. I was like, I need the next one. So reading Think and Grow Rich, the 13 Principles of Riches, or reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People more than 3 or 4 times, like going through that, really sharpening that saw, that's something that really changed the way that I view focus and going deep. So it's nice to go wide. It's nice to have to have a nice network, but it's also very important to learn the power of focus. If you want to create that diamond, you got to polish it. If you want to cut the diamond, you got to use the laser. So
do you think that you could have achieved the success you had by skipping the going wide phase? Because I know you talked about previously, you had 7 businesses going on. You were at the Watchery, and you found this one with Ajax Union that took off. And at that point, it seems like you went deep.
Yeah, I think I could have had this level of success without the going wide. It's my personality to go wide. And because it's my personality to go wide, I'm going to do it either way. It's something that I'm going to do naturally. Some people, their personality is just to go deep. And for them, they need to challenge themselves to go wide. It depends on where you need balance in your life. There are people that are just not the visionary types of people. So they need to hang around with people that go wide. Maybe you just don't have that. Maybe you're an integrator, maybe you're an operator, but you're entrepreneurial. That's fine. Find the person who's bouncing off the walls and have them go deep with something and teach them. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to say that I was successful because of me. I was successful because of the people that I chose to hang around myself and actually modify and transform the way that I operate to operate a little more like those people, but still bring everything that I have to the table. So it's the sum of like my partner, my brother, the people, my clients, my mentors, my coaches, the books that I read. That's what really truly brought me to success. So if you're bouncing off the wall, there's a book called Idea Monkey. Buy the book, read the book. It's a pretty good book. It basically tells you that every idea monkey needs someone who will tame them. What's the person in the circus that like whacks the monkey? The ringleader.
Chris is my idea monkey. Chris is my idea monkey.
Yeah.
I can serve that. I'm going to play the idea monkey right now. Actually, let's bring this back to the idea that we're talking about here.
Shit.
You set me up too well for that. All right. So recounting a little bit here, someone's coming to you and they want to start a business. You take them through, what are you looking to achieve? Get really granular in how much money you want to make, really granular in the type of people that you want to serve. Start talking to those people to understand the problems that they're facing, right? That's the point that we're at right now. Take us through the next steps.
Oh, and realize that you're going to fail trying to solve those problems for those people a lot. I'll give you an example of that, and I'll show you what I did. So I knew that LinkedIn worked for me really, really well. And I wanted to start providing services around LinkedIn. I just didn't have the exact idea of what I was going to do, but I knew that LinkedIn was important because Microsoft invested $26.2 billion on LinkedIn. So I decided that, one of the things that I love is expanding my connections on LinkedIn strategically. So I'm going to offer a LinkedIn prospecting service, and I'm going to start interviewing my customers, and I'll go through this whole process. I knew how much money I wanted to make, how many clients, I hired sales reps. I did the whole work, right? Nobody bought. Nobody was interested in buying. People said, it's a great idea. I love it. My friends and family said it's the best thing. They told me what their problem is, and we tried it. We had one guy, we said, we'll give you a 7-day trial. And if you like it at the end of the 7 days, and one person out of the hundreds of conversations that we had, one person said he'll do the 7-day trial. And at the end of 7 days, he's like, you know what? I don't really see the value in this. It's a nice to have, but I'm not paying for it. So if you want to do it for free, Joe, you're welcome to use my account and expand my account and prospect, but I'm not looking to do that. And then I said, you know what, let me go back to the drawing board. Let me look at other problems and let me try to solve a different problem. And what I found was a common problem with a lot of the people in my network was that they didn't have a strategy for LinkedIn. So they're like, don't do it for me, but help me with a strategy. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to fire the sales reps that I had because they obviously didn't work, and I'm going to do this myself. So for 90 days, I had 5 conversations every single day talking about the strategy, and my team was like, we're not even going to launch this product, this LinkedIn product, until you get people that want to buy. And they said, 10 people that want to buy. If you get 10 people that want to buy, we'll make a landing page. We'll support you as a team. But until then, let's just keep it with our funnel idea that we have right now and not offer another product. And I was looking for a lead-in product. Anyway, bottom line is I created an article that came up with this new idea based on the problems that they told me. I made a little YouTube video and I started having 5 conversations a day. I would reach out to 100 people a day. And I did this for 90 days. And in the first 30 days, I closed.
Quick question, just to clarify. I know you're going to finish that sentence, but when you talk about the article and the YouTube video, what were those? Those were something that were
just a description. Yeah, just a description of what the offering is. So what I would say is I would have a conversation with someone, talk to them and ask them all the questions and say, hey, do you have a good strategy? Is it written? Do you think that this would be valuable to you? How much value would it? And we get into the whole thing. I was like, do you want more information? I could send you a LinkedIn article and a video that I created. I'll happy to email it to you, read it. And if you're interested in more info, we'll set up another call to see how we can get started. Okay.
So not a big investment. After the initial call.
And after the initial call, during the initial call, if they saw that they hadn't, most people were not interested. Most people were like, it's a good idea. But in the first month, I closed 10 deals. In the second month, I closed another 10 deals. And in the third month, I closed another 10 deals. So in 90 days, I had 80 conversations a month and I was closing 10 deals a month. And I was like, holy crap, this is a great product. So I started increasing the price and increasing the price and increasing the price and adding more value and increasing the price. And I got it to a place where it was too expensive and people stopped buying. So I lowered the price and I got it to a sweet spot where we get the right amount of customers and the right type of customer. So the cheap one was a little too cheap. The expensive one was a little too expensive. So I found the right price. And now we offer a new product that is our lead-in product called the LinkedIn Authority Blueprint. I came up with this idea, and this idea itself could be a business on its own. It's not, it's a lead-in product. And for those that don't know what a lead-in product is if you have a product that's less expensive than your primary product that gets people in the door because there's so much value, but you still make profit off that, it's a great product to sell. So our LinkedIn Authority Blueprint helps CEOs, entrepreneurs, sales professionals be able to have an actual strategy for LinkedIn. They get a content calendar, an asset library, a connections dashboard. We optimize their profile. We give them messaging scripts. We give them lots of different things. So now they have a written strategy for what they can do on LinkedIn to be successful. Now, the key for this is that after we do that for them, we then sell them our next thing, which is our marketing funnel, which is working with customers. Typically, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue for our business doing that. And I've successfully closed the blueprint and then converted that close into working with their company to do a much bigger engagement. And it worked once, twice, 3 times. And it's amazing that I'm able to pick up customers, sell them something that adds so much value to their life, and then convert them into a higher level customers. And if they don't, then it turns into like, okay, now I want to learn how to do this myself, which we built a whole course and a whole thing for that.
So Idea Monkey's got to jump back in.
Yeah. Wait a second. And I'm also confused. Is the idea monkey the person that has too many ideas, or the monkey that comes in and punishes you for having too many ideas?
According to the book, Idea Monkey, the idea monkey is the entrepreneur that has too many ideas, and the ringleader is the person who brings them in.
Okay, Chris is my ringleader. I'm the idea monkey.
I'll serve as
I will bring us back on track, and that is with the Amazon business idea, right? Starting a business on Amazon, or really whatever it's going to lead to with your sister. Would you recommend that was a step for her to take, or the listener to take? Do 5 calls a day for 90 days. And in those calls, try to kind of sell people a product that you modify, or what do you think about that?
First, that's at the second stage. So first, what you want to do is you want to find a problem that you're passionate about fixing for your target audience. So the first step is speak to your target audience, figure out what their problems are, and then find a problem that they believe that if they solve, they would be able to put a sticker price to it. I'll give you an example. In her case, she came up with the idea of, my kids are bored after school. They're home. It's a pandemic. Nobody can go anywhere. So she wants to provide them with activities that they can sell. They can buy books on Amazon and pencils and like preset activities for after school with a little community. And I said, would that allow them to spend $80 a month? She's like, yeah, for a family, for the type of mother that she's targeting that has multiple kids, they'd be happy to spend $20 a week, which is $80 a month, which is $1,000 a year. And I can easily get 200 people to do that. So that's $180,000 in revenue. And it's reoccurring revenue because every month she's selling them books and she's selling them pencils and she's selling them activities, and it's part of a community and it's a whole thing. And she came up with that idea by having conversations with people. Now, once you have the idea, then create an article or a landing page and a little video. Start having conversations with people and then send them the information to review. And if they want that, then you can get them signed up. But don't go create a whole website and start marketing brochures and logos and hire an agency and build it and they will come. Don't do that. First, close X amount of deals. I told her that in order for her to prove this concept and for me to believe that she can get 180 clients, she needs 18 clients. So she's like, okay, if I can get 18 clients, then invest in a brand, then invest in a proper sequence and email automation and a whole thing. But before you do that, go get your first 18 clients. And if you can't get 5, and I said, by the way, I'm a client already. I'll be a client. I'll be your first client happily. I'll pay you $1,000 to take care of my kids for the year after hours, send me the activities and all that. Because my kids love to draw and all that stuff, right? So I'll happily be your first client. And I said, by the way, your sister, I just had a conversation with her. She's going to be your second and your brother will be your third. So you just need 15 more. Okay. So she's like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And now now it's her job to do that.
Quick question. And I think I'm noticing a potentially common problem with entrepreneurs. And I think since you've had so much business experience, maybe able to speak to it. Somebody starts out and they say, I'd like to make $180,000 a year. That's the number we picked. You did some calculations, found out this is how many customers you need to have. And you've done all that. And then you realize this business is going to have some overhead, right? Oh, maybe I have to pay, Amazon seller fees. I've got the pencils. Where do they come from? I've got to pay like a commission on those, I've got to have a web hosting, all these things. Can you give people an insight on, how to account for those type of things in your calculations? So is she saying, oh, I want to make 100,000, I'm going to spend 80,000 in overhead? Is there like a percentage? How do you recommend people think about that in terms of calculations?
I think that when I talk to people and I say there's a take-home amount of money, and then there is the amount of money that the business will operate. So if you have a business on average is going to do net profit, let's say 5%, right? 10% if you're doing really well. If it's super managed well, you're going to have 20%. Businesses don't make a lot of net profit, but then there's the operator expense. And if you want to run a company efficiently, you can have a business that generates 200,000 and you take 180 as the operator, you're doing all the work. But if you want a business that you're not operating yourself and somebody else is operating, then it's a whole nother conversation. Most of this conversation is about an owner operator that there's a concept called cost of goods sold. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you figure out what salary you want to take home, but first figure out the top line revenue you want the business to make, and then figure out, okay, speak to an accountant or a business coach or a business planner, somebody to support you to create a simple model, even on the back of a napkin, of what it costs to acquire a customer, and once you close the customer, what it costs to service the customer. There's a concept called fixed costs, and there's cost of goods sold. And I always educate people on that. Very important for them to know the difference between a fixed cost and the difference between cost of goods sold. Fixed cost is the cost of doing business, like getting your office. You still need to pay $500 or $5,000 a month for the office, whether you have one person or 5 people. You still need that office. You still need the equipment, whether you're servicing 10 customers or 100 customers. But at a certain level, to get to the next level, you need to make a further investment. So to have 10 employees, you need an office that pays you $5,000 fixed cost. But to have 100 employees, you need an office that costs $15,000, $20,000 a month to be able to service those people. So really figuring out your top line first, or for where you want to get to, will help you be able to figure out, can I afford to get there, and how fast can I afford to get there in terms of cash? Ajax Union was able to grow at the speed that it grew is because the model that I set was prepay only. So if you want me to serve you, you got to pay me the first of the month. So before I do the work, you already paid me. So my CCC, my cash conversion cycle, is a positive, not a negative. Often what people do is they start a business, like a construction business. Somebody gives them $100,000 to do a $200,000 project, and they end up spending $150,000 before they can even get their second payment to get the project done. And they're hoping the person will then pay them, and they're like, no. And so now they're negative $50,000, and they still have to finish the other half of the project. So you end up getting another project with their deposit to finish the last person's thing. And then people end up doing that in construction or web design, where you have negative cash flow. And every customer that you get, you end up getting further and further into that. So then you go to merchant cash advance and you get these really expensive things. And before you know it, your business is not even profitable. Most businesses are not profitable because people don't do exactly what you said, Ethan. Really think about how much profit you need to make in your business and how you're going to get. By the way, cash and profit are 2 different things. A lot of people don't know this in business. Cash and profit are two different things. You can't say, "Oh, I'm profitable because I'm making profit," but then you don't have the cash. You need to measure the key performance indicators, the KPIs, the indicators, the things that you measure, the numbers that you look like in a car. You're looking at the miles per hour. You're looking at the gas tank. You're looking at the RPM. You're looking at the heat. You could also look at the how much air is blowing from the air conditioner and at what pace it's coming in, and have a thing that measures that. But that's not going to help you be able to know if you can get from point A to point B. In business, you have to understand what your profit is, but you also have to understand your revenue, and you have to understand your cash flow and all that other stuff. So you want to get educated on this. And this is a big mistake I see a lot of entrepreneurs make, is that they just like completely detach themselves from the numbers. You are responsible to learn some basic numbers. I'm not telling you to become a genius about how to reconcile stuff in QuickBooks. I'm telling you to learn how to read a financial statement, a P&L, a cash flow statement. This is something that somebody didn't tell me when I started my business. And we were actually negative cash flow. Even though we had all this stuff, we were growing faster than we could afford to grow. And I didn't think about this. And I didn't hear Tony Robbins whisper in my ear saying most people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in a decade. And I wish he would have told me that when I started my business, because I was just thinking about the next year. I was just thinking about the next 90 days, I wasn't really planning for 10 years. And if I would have planned, my business would have grown so much faster because I would have slowed down on the front end and been more profitable and had more cash. Instead, I ended up doing things like getting an investor, and I did a lot of things that I don't regret because I learned a lot from it, but I wouldn't have done because I had a very successful, profitable business, but I didn't understand the difference between profit and cash.
I think that's a good point here for us to wrap up. We are coming up on time. To the listener out there,
Great. We've been all over the map here, by the way. I just want to say we went from the nuts and bolts of starting the business, which we laid out like some really great action steps within like the first 5 minutes. We derailed you from that. We took you into some other areas, just kind of giving some general insights. We talked about some things that you've experienced that are useful. And now we're getting almost like a business accounting session 101 here. So lots of great stuff. Thank you so much on that, Joe. Just wanted
it's my pleasure.
Highlight those features. Appreciate it.
The listeners got to take your advice for repeating content that they find valuable for this episode. So to the listener out there who is on board with Joe's philosophy, take some action, follow through on some of the steps that we talked about. There are a lot of mindset actions there. There's a lot of tangible things, and talking to friends and family and understanding how much money you want to make. Follow through on that. Let us know what you've done. Email us at update@runwithit.fm. Give us some feedback on this episode. Be really appreciated. Joe, where can listeners go to learn more about you?
It's very simple. Go to my LinkedIn profile. Go to joelinkedin.com. If you want to connect with me, I have over 1,000 people waiting to connect with me right now. So make sure that you mention runwithit.fm in the connection note when you're sending me a connection request. So this way I know that you heard me on the show and I'll accept you. I love helping people, supporting entrepreneurs. I want to help 1,000 hungry entrepreneurs go from frustration to motivation. So if you're the type of entrepreneur that wants to get motivated, that wants to take your life to a whole new level, that loves drinking from the fire hose and wants to really live the life of your dreams, so connect with me on LinkedIn, check out my content, reach out to me, let me know that you heard me here, and let's see how I can support you on your journey. I love speaking to people. I coach about 1,000 people a year anonymously through the Breakthrough Maze. So I just love adding value to other people, and I hope that this added value to you. And if it did, please just send me a quick little note letting me know what you're going to do as a result of this, because I get motivated when I hear other people that literally take action. That's what I want to see. Yo, check it out. You got to take action if you want a reaction. I know you said it before you sweat it. You tried to get with Chris and Ethan, making it happen early in the morning. Listen to this podcast again and again. You think you're going to get it on the first shot. No way. You got to sweat it and listen and take notes and grow, because I'm Joe. J to the O to the E. I'm about high energy. 1, 2, 3. I know how to lay those steps for you. So come with me and make it happen every day. Make it happen every day. Yo.
Nice.
Excellent.
I did not know that you had that in your back pocket, man. You were ready to go with that. Joe, thank you for the conversation. It's been a lot of fun, very enlightening as well. Really appreciate it. And to the listener out there, take some action, and we will see you next week.
Boom.
All right, I'll sign us off.
Cool.
Did I stop the Zencaster or you got?
I stopped it. It's going to upload real quick. I know we're